And welcome to the webcast. I am Paul Rajkumar, Business Development Manager at Versasec, and your host and speaker for today's webinar. Today, our topic for discussion is all around strengthening cybersecurity in the Middle East. To walk us through the session, I've been joined by our guest, Cecile Boyer, Channel Manager from Yubico. Welcome, Cecile.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Welcome, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Cecile. Cecile has more than 15 years experience in developing channel networks in cybersecurity. She has a strong experience in the MEA region and is focusing on driving customer demand through Yubico's partner ecosystem. YubiKeys deliver the highest assurance passkeys with phishing-resistant MFA to stop account takeovers. A little bit about myself. I'm Paul Rajkumar, Business Development Manager at Versasec, with more than 50 years experience in the IT industry. I work closely with organizations developing customer-centric solutions and also build strategic business development for the Middle East and Asia-Pacific regions. Before I pass on the session to Cecile, few housekeeping rules. All attendees are muted throughout the session. Should you wish to ask questions, which we will handle at the end, please submit through the question area on your panel. The discussion is automatically recorded and will be shared after the webinar. So please feel free to share it with your colleagues and friends. On to you, Cecile.
Thank you, Paul. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for attending the webinar this morning. So what we're going to see today is how we can help strengthening your cybersecurity posture. What do we mean by cybersecurity posture? We are looking basically at the way hackers may penetrate your company organization. And today what we've noticed is that hackers do not hack in anymore, but they're actually logging in. So what is Yubico and how we can help, strengthening your cybersecurity posture? We are a global authenticator leader in terms of multi-factor authentication. And today we got more than 5,000 customers worldwide. And one of the reason that the customers have integrated YubiKey is because they were looking at reducing the credential theft risk. And by implementing the key, they managed to reduce the credential theft risk by up to 19.9%. The other aspect that they realized once implemented YubiKey is that they also greatly reduced the help desk support up to 92%. To give you an example, we got a customer, Google, who deployed YubiKey to their worldwide employee, and they managed to reduce up to $50 million in terms of help desk support. What we also see is that obviously we have sold a lot of YubiKeys into the market, and we've got a great technology alliance with our partners. And I will basically explain a little more, and Paul, if we can move to the next slide, about what is YubiKey. So YubiKey is the most secure, simplest, and user-friendly multi-factor authentication that exists in the market. So what you see on this slide is, first of all, the key itself, and the reason why it's the most secure. It starts at production level. The chip, which is also an encrypted chip, is embedded and molded directly onto the key. And the key itself has no battery, is also IP68, so waterproof and dust resilient, and crush resistant, which explain why government, defense, and very some specific as well IoT organization are using the key because of its robustness. YubiKey is not only a very robust key, but it's also very secure. And as you can see, we've got several certifications like the FIPS 14.0-2, NIST, ISO, that basically show the compliance to the different regulation and certification available in the market. We are also almost an agnostic key, multi-OS, support web browser. So we go from the Windows to Mac OS, Linux. We support the smartphone, iOS, and Android. And we have also a multi-protocol key that we will see a bit later on in the presentation with the YubiKey 5, which onboard the FIDO protocol, which allows you to have what we call a phishing-resistant passwordless authentication. And as I briefly mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, We have a great partnership with Technical Alliance, and I will pass the hand over to Paul, who will explain a bit more about Versasec.
Thank you very much, Cecil, and for a great introduction to YubiKeys and how it helps organizations to build phishing-based resistance. A little bit about Versasec. We are a Swedish-based firm founded in 2007, focusing in managing digital identities. We provide both on-prem and SaaS solutions for managing the full life cycle of hardware-bound authentication for organizations of all sizes. Our flagship product, Versasec CMS, provides complete lifecycle management starting from issuance, PIN resets, token management, temporary authentication to revocation, and decommission. Our system covers it all. Our lifecycle workflows can be triggered centrally or via self-service, giving you the flexibility with automation. And we also connect with third-party systems, which includes user directories, IDPs, external database, and HSMs. Since 2007, we have worked with more than 500 plus customers across 60 countries, managing PKI credentials for some of the world's most critical organizations. With Versasec Credential Management System, customers now have access to both PKI and FIDO2 credential lifecycle management through one easy-to-use system. And in the next slide, Cecil will help you understand the details of the risk faced by organizations.
Thanks, Paul. Indeed, what we're going to see in the next few slides is why do you need to implement an MFA solution with Versasec, a credential management solution. What we see is that we have a great increase of the risk environment, and any breaches always start, unfortunately, or 3/4 of the time, start with a breach from a human element. So a human component will be involved in a breach. The other aspect that we have seen and noticed in the last few years is that the phishing attacks have increased greatly. And they all start with 80% of the attacks start actually by a phishing attack. So if you look at these two components, so that there is always a human element, and the breach always starts with a phishing attack. So there is obviously a solution that we are going to see in the next few slides that can resolve these challenges and risk within an organization. What we also see via the agency of FTC is that with AI is going to turbocharge the fraud and the scam risk. And as of today, we already see that we have an average cost of $4.4 million. And this is going to greatly increase with the arrival of AI. So if we move to the next slide, Paul, we can see that the AI is going to deliver more sophisticated and targeting content. We also see that there is a great improvement in grammar and sentence structure, which gives a very relevant information. And when we look at spear phishing attacks that are targeting some very specific individual within an organization, that could be executive people, IT administrator, people accessing some very sensitive data, we can see that already today the spear phishing attacks are very successful and achieve a 50% click rate. With the approval of AI, these two keys are going to improve, put relevant information and create a sense of urgency and legitimacy to these attacks. And as well, the toolkits are becoming more and more available in the market, and they are also much cheaper. So that means not only professional hackers will be able to send these attacks, but also maybe more junior hackers, and they will have a successful outcome. So how can we help, to basically strengthen your authentication level? And if we move to the next slide, we're going to see, how multi-factor authentication and explaining how, if we look at phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication, can help your organization to strengthen your cybersecurity position from a username and logging access. So when we look at authentication, the weakest link of authentication is, of course, username and password. As of today, approximately 57% of companies are still using a username and password. However, we've seen that enterprise and organizations have migrated to what we call a multi-factor authentication. So an addition of an authentication after your username and password. So we started with SMS, voice messaging to deliver the code, And then in the last few years, I would say 5 to 7 years, we moved to applicant-based multi-factor authentication, where you got an application onto your mobile phone that push a one-time password that you enter once you have done your initial login. However, this type of authentication, even if they are multi-factor authentication, are not what we call phishing-resistant authentication. So that means that a man in the middle, a breach, an attack can basically allow the hackers to access the second factor authentication and still access the relevant data that they're targeting. The only way you can resist phishing attacks is by implementing what we call passwordless authentication or multi-factor authentication phishing resistant, by implementing either a solution which has a FIDO protocol that allows basically an exchange of a public and private key between the web application authentication or the web cloud authentication. And the other aspect that you know of is the smart card, which also offer a multi-factor authentication. But what are the drivers pushing organizations to look at multi-factor authentication? And if we move to the next slide, Paul, then we're going to see that there are different drivers that we've already touched upon. So there are two types of drivers. We got the internal and the external driver. So when we look at the internal driver, we've already mentioned about the cyber threats like the phishing and the spear phishing attacks, man in the middle, brute force attack that are, trying to gather the username and the login, because today, as we mentioned, hackers do not hack in, they actually log in. We got the compliance that we are going to see in the next slide. And then you got also the external factor. What we mean by external is how the users is going to connect to your different services, devices, data center to access their information to do their work. You also have to take in consideration the complexity of your office workers or your employees inside your organization and how they connect to your infrastructure. And last but not least is looking at the user convenience. If you have an authentication that is very complex, the user is going to find a way to make it easier for him or herself to log in into the system. So when we look at YubiKey, we are able to support all multi-factor authentication and mostly phishing resistant passwordless authentication with the FIDO protocol and the smart card PIV. So if we move to the next slide, Paul, we are going to touch upon really the new regulation and the compliance that are also driving the multi-factor authentication passwordless, because while we are seeing that we have new regulations that are coming into force, but we also have compliance from an internal policy. We see that corporations are putting more internal policy in order to respond to their compliance or regulations or any kind of ISO and certification where they need to have very streamlined policies. But if we look at the simple regulation, we can see that there are a great increase of new regulation that has appeared and strengthening in the last few years. One of them is PCI DSS, which is evolving to the 4.0, and the requirement 8 is very interesting because it's basically saying to organization processing financial transaction to have a non-repeatable authentication. What I mean by non-repeatable multi-factor authentication is actually a phishing passwordless authentication. So this kind of regulation are also pushing organizations to implement this kind of authentication to ensure that they are compliant. You also have the GDPR compliance. You have a Saudi PDPL. We also see the great digitalization of this world. You got the digital vision of 2030 in Saudi, the UAE smart city that are also pushing basically the multi-phishing resistant authentication. So the last but not least, and if we move to the next slide, Paul, you also have obviously the challenges that you get from your employees. As we've seen, corporations, they got much and more remote type of employees with different privilege and access to the systems and also sometimes they also share workstation. So what we say to organizations that you are working in a government or in defense where you got very privileged users with air gap environment where there may not be a connectivity is to look at a multi-factor authentication that can offer not only a passwordless option, but are also flexible to adapt to the authentication that the user needs instead of asking the user to adapt to the authentication that the company requires. And that's basically what YubiKey is able to offer today, is to adapt to the different mobile restricted environment, that there is connectivity or not connectivity, that you are in a rugged area, that you need to connect to different workstation, and the organization need to ensure that the security and the accountability of the cybersecurity risk is fully managed. So now I'm going to pass the handovers to Paul, who's going to explain a bit more how Versasec can support and help the deployment, management, and also the auditing of YubiKeys as a solution of a multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Cecil. And also emphasizing the need for organizations to go for strong authentication methods and flexible MFA options. So with our comprehensive credential management system, VSEC CMS, we fully manage the lifecycle of FIDO devices, PKI security keys, smart cards, Windows LFO business, and virtual smart cards. We help organizations establish a zero trust security model, offering the most efficient way to safeguard your company. We integrate with leading identity providers, offering solutions tailoring to your ecosystem, compliance needs, IT infrastructure, and most importantly, your budget. Our on-prem and SaaS solutions address diverse pain points, as you can see on the slide, and enabling the adoption of modern authentication methods while enhancing IT team efficiency. So if you do have any of these pain points, please reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to showcase a demo with YubiKeys and VSEC CMS pairing to eliminate all these threats. Life with Versasec for our customers is very efficient, particularly when you have a solution which is centralized hardened solution like VSEC CMS, where the admin keys of the particular credential like YubiKeys are fully diversified, which makes the token even more secure. Our solution offers the most efficient way to protect your company by managing the full life cycle of credentials, and we enhance security by streamlining the operations. We businesses now can save time and resources by eliminating all manual tasks and reducing the reliance on multiple software tools. With automation and additional security benefits, organizations now can focus on core business activities instead of managing the credential processes manually. What we offer is a simple, secure end-to-end orchestration with granular access management. We support YubiKeys with PKI combined with FIDO-based authentication. And if there's a requirement for organizations to manage virtual smart cards or Windows Fellow for business accounts, then we also help with that. Our solution simplifies and secures the entire lifecycle management process, including YubiKeys. Whether the organization is looking for certificate-based authentication or FIDO2, we integrate with various ecosystems, ensuring the centralized management. And with our system, you can achieve complete control over both the devices and the processes, offering end users a smooth, secure experience at the end of the day. So throughout the initialization where you need to personalize and deploy the YubiKeys, or in the maintenance process where you need to reset PIN or renew the certificates, or when an employee is leaving the organization where you need to completely revoke the YubiKeys, you can manage every stage of your YubiKeys to adhere to your company's policies and legislation using VSEC CMS. Particularly if your organization is looking to deploy YubiKeys in a centralized manner or for the decentralized users, otherwise known as mobile workforce, we provide flexible options. Our solution allows for both centralized deployment with admin or operator roles and decentralized deployment where end users can manage YubiKeys via a self-service application. The admin tool streamlines policy implementation, workflow management, operator role assignment, and integrations with CAs, HSMs, and more connections. And to support day-to-day activities, we have a filtered agent application which focuses on daily tasks such as help desk support, which includes PIN unblock, certificate renewal, and maintenance. For remote issuance, YubiKeys now can be shipped to end users who can then manage them efficiently through self-service application. So once the YubiKeys are ready for issuance, our solution offers multiple secure ways to deploy the YubiKeys. So whether it is done in person by the IT admins or by the help desk team or remotely by an operator with a YubiKeys shipped to the end user. End users now can easily set the pins using the self-service option or receive a randomized pin via email. Once the YubiKey is issued and activated, the user can log in securely using the YubiKey and the pin. And in case if the pin is blocked, end users now can unblock it directly from the Windows login screen using the self-service capabilities without requiring additional support. Or if there is an additional requirement and an additional layer of protocol where you need to reach out to the help desk team to unblock the pin, then we can use the traditional challenge response method. With Versasec performing at the security core of organizations, our platform is built for organizations in mind so you can build your IAM strategy that fits your security goals. With VSec CMS position, you would be getting clear visibility into your credentials and the status, along with simplified control onboarding. Our solution easily manages connections to various third-party systems, fitting smoothly into your existing infrastructure. Versasec adapts to the unique needs of your organization, providing flexibility in deployment. So once you set up VSec CMS onto the server, along with the add-on components of VSec CMS, then you can connect to the user directories. It could be Entra ID or Active Directory, LDAP, OpenLDAP, V2V3 connectors. If there's a requirement where you need to connect with HSMs to store the root keys or the master keys, that can be done with the help of VSec CMS solution. We can inject more than one type of certificate with multiple CAs for certificate-based authentication. And if you are planning to use YubiKeys for FIDO-based orchestration, yes, we can directly connect with the IDPs and throughout the entire lifecycle, manage the YubiKeys and the credentials. So our on-prem and SaaS solutions offer key features such as RFID interface management, card printing and batch processing, along with key archival and restoring capabilities. We do have audit logs, inventory management, and also support for OIDC who require for more secure authentication. Overall, we work very closely with organizations so we understand the workflows so that we can configure the PIN policies as per the IT security policies. And most importantly, we understand your IT infrastructure so that we can help you well. We also work very closely with your teams to see how the YubiKeys can be best deployed, whether it should be done centrally or through remote issuance or by self-service, where the YubiKeys can be shipped to the end users and they can use with the help of VSec CMS solution and the user self-service application, they can have the YubiKeys deployed by themselves on their own. So with this, we go on to the last slide before we finish the session. So talking about the advantages of implementing YubiKeys with Versasec, we offer a seamless, cost-effective, fast solution for implementing YubiKeys. Our platform features a no-code intuitive user interface, making it very easy to manage, and it is scalable to fit organizations of any size, ensuring that you're always prepared for growth. You can expect the highest level of security with migration paths from other credential management systems. Absolutely, there won't be any business continuity loss because a migration wizard will be working on the backdrop and also integration with multiple ecosystems. Plus, our solution is customizable to meet your specific needs based on the projects. So our on-prem and SaaS solution drastically improves the management of user authentication credentials, making it very simple for businesses and organizations to take control. And the best part, it easily integrates with your existing infrastructure without any hassles. For those who are particularly looking into FIDO orchestration, deploying FIDO passwordless authenticators like YubiKeys is easier than ever with complete credential enterprise management like VSec CMS. If you have decided to use FIDO authenticators, please feel free to reach out to us. And with Versasec, you'll have the tools, support, and security to make your credential management seamless, efficient, and future-proof. With that, we are come to the end of our webinar. And before we move on to our Q&A session, is there any closing points, Cecil?
Thank you, Paul. So basically, yes, what we can see is that the integration of Yubico with Versasec, and when we talk to customers, they ask about how can we deploy and manage a solution and have a full audit. Basically, Yubico and Versasec works very well together and helps you to manage the solution and to have a clear view of where we are at with your authentication method, especially when you go to phishing, passwordless authentication.
Thank you, Cecil. I see a couple of questions which has popped up. If the participants, if you do have any other questions, you can definitely put it in the question panel so we can answer them. Cecil, the first question is for you. What happens if I lose my YubiKey, and is it possible for me to use one YubiKey for multiple accounts?
Thanks a lot for the question. So that's indeed a common question. What happens if you lose your YubiKey? So first of all, we advise the customers to have, for each of their users, to have a backup. So if there is a key that is lost, there is obviously no loss of productivity, and then you can restart the web. If you do not have a backup, and again, if you have a Versasec implemented with YubiKey, you can easily manage and give a potential another access until they receive a new YubiKey to the users. So you got the possibility, and you will never leave your users unable to log in onto the system. And is it possible to have several users? So YubiKey is a very flexible key. We advise to have obviously one key per user for security purposes. But however, if you need to share to have one or two users or up to 4 users onto a YubiKey, you can also allow that. And we've seen that happening when potentially somebody is sharing a workstation. They want to put 4 users to manage to a workstation onto one YubiKey. So everything is kind of possible with YubiKey. We've got a lot of flexibility.
Thank you, Cecil. That was a wonderful explanation. There is another question. I think it's combined, but I think I can take it. How scalable is the combined solution with YubiKeys for enterprises where there are many users and devices? It's a great question. So if you have decided to use YubiKeys for multi-factor authentication, and if you're planning to use a credential management system like Versasec CMS to manage throughout the life cycle of the YubiKeys, then yes, it is definitely a possibility. Yeah, you can definitely face it as how you are planning to do the purchase of the UP keys. In terms of scalability, is completely attainable. You can start with as much as 50 managed devices of YubiKeys, and if you are even scaling up to 500,000 devices, of course, you need to size up the servers. So you can definitely achieve a scalability with our VSEC CMS solution. So that is no issues when it comes to scalability. And if you are having any particular queries or any particular questions on how you can best use both YubiKeys as well as VSEC CMS solution, I put a QR code so you can always pick it up from here and schedule a demo with us so we can showcase the different use cases, particularly with the login authentication or the different use cases that you're looking to achieve with YubiKeys and VSEC CMS solution. On top of it, before I end the session, I would also like to emphasize that we do have an evaluation copy available. So if you are interested to download it, you can go to our website, www.versasec.com. You just need to register and download an evaluation copy. And if you need help to set it up, please reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to help you out. So with that, I don't see any more questions. Oh yes, there is one more question which has come. It can be for both of us, Cecil. Does it include training for employees? Do you have, I would like to answer for VSEC CMS, but for YubiKeys, do you have any training?
We don't, as a Yubico, have a training as such, but we're working with partners, and partners can also deliver some training to employees. So yeah, please do ask if you have some specific training in mind, and when we can definitely do something for you.
Thank you, Cecil. So yes, you can definitely reach out to Cecil. You have the email address, so you can get more information about the training. When it comes to our VSEC CMS solution, yes, we do provide certification program, not only for the customers, but also for the SIs and also for the resellers. So if you are interested to be trained with VSEC CMS solution, please reach out to us and we'll be able to give you the syllabus on what we would be covering over the course of the training. So yes, we do provide training for both the organization who are purchasing VSEC CMS for the employees, as well as for the SIs and the resellers. So let me see if there is any other questions. No, I think we have come to the end of the Q&A session, Cecil. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much for all the participants who took your time to attend our webinar. I want to wish you a wonderful day ahead. And thank you, Cecil, again.